Christmas, a time to be joyful, a time to give, a time to receive, and a time to watch films. Christmas is one of those special times of year when the entire family is forced to sit together for the longest period they have all year, to watch classics like A Muppet's Christmas Carol and It's a Wonderful Life. It's a beautiful time of year where for once everyone agrees what films should be watched. But while Christmas films are great, and all in all they're some of the most beloved films ever made, I noticed something a while back. You see, you look at the most popular Christmas films among people, and you look at what films pop up. There's films like Elf, Polar Express, Home Alone, they're all common winners amongst people. But eventually you start to realise that none of these films are actually new. In fact, the newest film people regard as a Christmas classic is actually Polar Express, a film that came out over 10 years ago. So what happened? Why do we no longer get Christmas classics? What happened to Christmas, and are Christmas films a dead form of media? Before I start this video, I'd like to point out that Fox actually decided to copyright strike and ban in all countries this video because of any time I used any form of Home Alone footage on its own. This basically screwed up my entire essay and made me have to rewrite nearly every single thing in it. And it was all there for critical analysis purposes only, which falls well under fair use. This was ridiculous. So to get around the copyright strike, I decided I'm going to superimpose the CEO of Fox, Rupert Murdoch, over every single Home Alone character's face. F*** you, Fox. So I think the best place to start with this would be to justify what makes a film a Christmas classic. So I'm going to attempt to point out what common themes pop up in most Christmas classics and try and develop a formula to go along with this. The idea being that if we can apply this formula to Christmas classics, then we can try and apply it to modern films and see where they're going wrong. Obviously, without even examining anything, an obvious recurring theme will be the theme of Christmas. The story, music and setting will all have to be Christmas themed, otherwise how can you even class the film as a Christmas classic? Again, without really going deep into analysing Christmas films, you'll notice that nearly every Christmas classic has at least one huge star behind it. The Grinch has Jim Carrey, The Polar Express has Tom Hanks, The Santa Claus has Tim Allen, and Elf has Will Ferrell along with multiple other people. I could easily go on and on, but it's obvious that having a huge star in your film is going to be a necessary addition to this formula. Going a bit deeper into analysis and looking at Home Alone, I noticed that the comedy appealed to all ages. Multiple films do this, but Home Alone's a really good one for it, because it uses a mixture of slapstick and witty commentary. The film isn't limiting itself to one audience by just having childlike humour, and therefore has instant family appeal. The same applies to films like A Muppet's Christmas Carol. Its humour never limits itself to one audience, and not only that, it stands the test of time. None of these classics are particularly filled with pop culture jokes or relevant comedy, and that's why they can still be enjoyed today. Something else I skimmed over very quickly there was family appeal, and the film that made that stand out to me the most was Elf. Elf tackles everything with a childlike attitude, so children can join Buddy the Elf on his adventure and see it in a childlike way, and for older kids and parents, it's funny to see a grown man tackle these things in a childlike attitude. Elf goes out of its way to make sure everyone in the family can sit down and enjoy the film without ever singling out a group of parents. And that's probably why family appeal is such a big deal. It's the reason as to why you sit down and watch the same Christmas films every year, because they will appeal to everyone and not single anyone out. But while family appeal is incredibly important, I noticed something else that was equally important as well. When me and my brother were watching films, he became infatuated by this idea of, what's going to happen at Santa's workshop, or what's going to happen when Kevin McAllister's home alone? You get this idea that they're constantly entwined in this mystery and they want to know more. And all these kids' films have this idea of children's intrigue factor. It's an equally important factor in films because without the children's intrigue factor, you have no audience. You have to build your films around this, and it goes hand in hand with family appeal. And so for that reason, I think it should definitely be added to the list. The final thing that I noticed was a simple one. Going back to the basic Christmas theme, most of these films have some sort of setting which people associate with Christmas. I'm not talking about a house with a tree or anything trivial. I mean New York or Santa's workshop. Some big iconic Christmas setting which viewers can instantly associate with. Elf, Home Alone 2, A Muppet's Christmas Carol. Nearly every Christmas classic has this in it in some way or another. And I feel like there's definitely a necessary component to the formula. So if that's all our points, I feel like we can now develop this formula. We have Christmas theme, plus star cast, plus timeless comedy, plus family appeal, plus children's intrigue factor, plus iconic Christmas setting should all equal a Christmas classic. So to prove a point, let's just look at how many films this can actually apply to. Evidently what we've developed here is an extensive list of features that is present in nearly all Christmas classics, and to some extent maybe even a requirement of a film to be a Christmas classic.
Very few films will break that mold to become a classic, with only a couple of exceptions like Die Hard and Bad Santa, which go down purposely different paths to go against expectations. This draws attention to themselves and makes them Christmas classics. However, they do tick a few boxes, but for the sake of argument I'm going to class these films as anomalies. Obviously the next logical step is for me to apply that formula to modern Christmas films and see where they go wrong. But instead of me analysing every modern film and telling you where they all go wrong, I'll just show you a short montage of films that go directly against the formula and how they do so.
I'm sorry, we're closed.
Oh, no, I called about the...
Sorry, pal. Holidays are hell.
He sees you when you're sleeping. This is going to be the best Christmas ever.
Yeah, I'm just a bit stuck.
Will you be able to find me at my grandma's house in Grand Rapids? Because no one's going to be at our Chicago house for 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, don't worry, I'll find you.
What can I do for you, my burglars of turd?
I'll help you still alive.
What are you talking about?
We saw you get shot, remember?
You have to be more specific.
It's clear with that huge montage that I could go on and on, but I feel like I've proven my point. So now to clarify, what I've done is I've shown one reason as to why films aren't as good as they used to be. They're not using the same formula, which in normal film terms could be a good thing. I'm all for a good mix-up. But it's clear that going against this formula or trying to rewrite the formula doesn't work, and that's why we aren't getting Christmas classics anymore. So while there is a formalic reason, one that's pretty much clearly valid, I think there's much more to it, some deeper meaning as to why there are no more classics, and I think that's down to the fact that Christmas is dying out.
So hear me out, I'm not saying that Christmas as a holiday is going to anytime soon because it's clearly not. But what I am saying is the idea of using it as a form of marketing is. It's a holiday which is clearly rooted in the past. Just look at Christmas music. We haven't had a Christmas classic song since possibly Justin Bieber in 2011, and even that's a bit of a stretch. Christmas TV specials are thinning out. I'm seeing a lot less marketing for Christmas-related one-offs. In fact, the only advertisements I've seen are for old compilation albums or films that really aren't that Christmassy. I believe films have tried to grow up with their audience. Kids who watched Elf and Polar Express at the time of release aren't going to go and want to watch the brand new Nativity at the cinema.
So studios try to make films for them. Films like Krampus and Office Christmas Party are perfect examples of this, and look at the box office. Neither have done particularly well compared to classics. No big American studios are even making / attempting to make films like Elf anymore. It's all adult-orientated comedies. All these Christmas classics are from 2005 and before, so studios have tried to accommodate to that unsuccessfully. My answer would be to go and follow that list. Make films which stick to that formula and don't stray from the crowd. Make adult Christmas comedies a one-off instead of a yearly thing, and make more family-orientated Christmas films, not singling out anyone. But then again, maybe that's not the answer, so I'm going to offer one final short explanation. As I said, the genre is rooted in the past, and that's because it's a thing of the past. Christmas is mostly for the children. The idea of Santa and the mythical aspect is brilliant for kids, and as kids we attach to that greatly. We grow up watching these films, and to us, they're Christmas classics. We will show these to our kids and so on and so forth, and that's what keeps classics alive. But is this idea that there are no more classics down to our own perception? I grew up at the time of Elf and Polar Express, both films which when released, I was the ripe age for them. They were films of my life and will forever stay like that. Will kids who grew up on Nativity see that as their Christmas classic? There may be a formalic way to see if a film is a Christmas classic, but is it down to just what we've seen? So in 20 years time, will kids who grew up watching Nativity and Arthur Christmas deem them as classics? Is what we deem classic down to our generation and what we've grown up watching? And will it change in years to come? Maybe there is no formalic reason to it. Maybe because of my age I'm the wrong target audience now. Maybe my kids will have completely different definitions of what a Christmas classic is. It's all down to speculation and opinion. But I've come up with a definitive list of why I believe Christmas classics aren't a thing anymore. They either just stop following this formula that I developed, they're aiming at the wrong audience, or maybe we're just the wrong generation now. Maybe to me and the rest of my generation, Christmas classics aren't going to be a thing anymore. But you have to look on the positive side. We have a huge back catalogue of films that we can enjoy and sit down and watch every year. We've got some of the best Christmas films ever, and I don't know whether any other generation's ever going to beat that. How long that will last, I'm not sure. But for now, I'm going to sit back, have a drink, and watch Elf over and over and over again.
Merry Christmas.